Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the MBMFL YouTube channel. Welcome to the Commissioner's Cave. I'm SB, the Commissioner. This year I thought we'd move into the 21st century. Typically, I do these auction recaps. They take me anywhere from 3 to 4 hours to write. It's a lot. Let's be honest. I have a face for the big screen, not for journalism. You want to see this face and this haircut. So I'm going to give the people what they want. We're coming to you live. Typically when I write these things, I pull up the recap or the results from the auction, and it's just like stream of consciousness. I look at your team and I kind of just like puke out onto a page, like whatever pops into my mind. I try to have a little bit of direction. This year, something a little different. I've done like variations on this in the past, but we're just going to do a love-hate. I'm going to do one thing I really love about your team and one thing I really hate about your team. So it'll be a little bit mean, a little bit nice. And of course, I know why you're all here. I know why you click on the link. You want to know, what does Steve think of my team relative to the others? You want a draft grade. That's what gets clicks. That's what gets subscribes. So we're going to give you a grade. I'm going to start from the top, but let's jump right into it. Let's do the 2024 MBMFL auction recap. All right, let's kick it off with a little self-scouting. Love doing this every year, a little obituary on how I thought my draft went, how I kind of thought about it coming into the year. I'll touch on some keeper stuff. And for you newer managers, Jimmy, normally you have to pay for this kind of stuff. So I'm going to give you a window into my mind for this year. I think this turned out well for me. Pacheco was a keeper that I just feel like he's going to be a rock solid running back for the Chiefs. Towards the end of last year, his usage rates went up. They didn't bring McKinnon back. I realize his upside's capped because Mahomes is always going to be the biggest show in town. But I think he's going to end up being an RB1, probably at the back side of it. So that was a no-brainer to keep. I think he'd have went for 45 or so on the open market. I came into this year saying, I want one of the top, in my mind, 7 players and available to us, right? So that was Bijan, CMC, then receiver, you had Tyreek, you had CeeDee Lamb, you had Amon-Ra, you had A.J. Brown and Justin Jefferson. I didn't really want Chase last year. I had a tough relationship with the Bengals, didn't want to go back to that well. So it was really, I wanted to get one of those guys. And the way I thought about it was, if I'm picking in the beginning of the first round, I'm going to get one of those dudes. The end of the second is where I would get Pacheco, even though I got him a little bit cheaper. Then I wanted my receivers, after I kind of filled out that 1-2. I wanted to have a third-round pick, which to me is Devonta Smith, a fourth-round pick, who is George Pickens, a fifth-round pick, who is Dalton Kincaid, which is a steal. And then I took Brock Purdy kind of as a sixth-round pick. And then I rounded my team out with a not-so-great bench. What I'll say, what I hate about this team is my flex kind of sucks. I'm going to have to watch Chuba Hubbard be my flex until either Xavier Worthy or Ladd McConkey get going. I don't really know the Curtis Samuel situation. I just think my bench is a little lacking for like immediate impact, and it's going to have to be Chuba. What I'd say I love about this team, I think I have the best running back duo in the NBMFL. Latif, you heard me correctly. I would rather have Bijan and Pacheco over Taylor and Saquon. I just think the ceiling's higher. I think the floor's higher. But what I love about this team is when I look at my kind of next tier, I look at George Pickens and I look at Dalton Kincaid. Like, both guys are going to lead their team in targets, right? And that's what gets me really pumped is you have Kincaid linked to Allen. There's no way he doesn't see more targets than he did last year. I'm thinking 130 targets. And I think Pickens with Russell Wilson could be a really interesting player. I do think from a keeper perspective, you guys are going to regret giving me Worthy and McConkey for $3 and $1. Overall, I really like my team. I'm going to give myself an A.
Uh-oh.
All right. First team that is not my own, we get Mr. Toon Squad. I'm going to try to be a little quicker on these. I think what I like about your team is Tyreek Hill. That's what I like about your team. That's what I love about your team. He's a fun player. 3 years in a row you've had him. He's going to be awesome. But my man, we got some issues here. We got some serious issues. I think this is where auction kills people, right? Because I'm looking at your team like, where did you spend all this money? And then I see Rashad White, who in a normal draft is like, end of the third round, early fourth type of pick. But in auction, like with the positional scarcity at running back, like you just get hammered on these guys. And you end up spending $40 on Rashad White when Marvin Harrison Jr. went for like 42. So it's always these dead zone running backs that kill people because you just look at your team and you say, well, I need a running back, and I know I'm overpaying. I know I'm paying through the nose. But the result is you get someone like Rashad White that doesn't have a ton of draft capital, isn't on a great offense, had a good year, had a bounce back year with Baker, but like who really knows the direction of that team if they're going to be any good? I look at your other big-time player, Devontae Adams. I see two players on really bad offenses potentially. The bench doesn't do a lot for me. Having like Brock Bowers, I think could be an interesting keeper. Najee, maybe. Rome is third in a crowded wide receiver room. Toon Squad. I don't think this team's making the playoffs. This is going to get this is a D+ from me. All right, Burnt Toast up next. I've been criticized for being a little too kind to Andrew. I think he's a good drafter. I think he always builds really solid auction teams. He's into it. He's the most fantasy savvy Nigro that I've ever known, and I don't think that's even close. What do I love about this team? The upside on this team is crazy. Like, this is Willy Wonka shooting out of the fucking factory, like up in the clouds. Like, every player on this team has mega, mega upside. Etienne, JJ, Neighbors, Collins, Richardson, even his bench. I like your bench with the upside, like with Tajay and Chase Brown. That's what I love about this team, is your upside is crazy. But the downside and what I hate about this team is I think your consistency and like early season could be really tough. Like Richardson, I get it. He runs, he's exciting, he's an athlete. I just think in this league format, he's just going to straight up lose you some weeks when he's got bad spots. Like, that's just going to happen. I think like Darnold with the Vikings, like I like the JJ pick, but I think he's going to have serious consistency issues too. And maybe later on, Darnold finds a little rhythm, but like early on could be tough going. And I'd say the same for like Neighbors. Like, he's going to be a beast down the stretch. I bet you keep him for $38 next year. But it's usually like the back half of the year when these guys really pop. So I'm a little worried about this team. I think you have a ton of upside, but there is just some real consistency issues that from week to week, I think you're going to struggle with. But all in all, I like the team. I'm going to go with a B-.
Nice.
All right, moving on to the Buffaloes. What do I love about this team? I mean, I love Amon-Ra. Amon-Ra, to me, was my favorite receiver for his price. I think, the Lions play 14 out of 17 games in a dome this year. The guy is as consistent as they come. He's durable as hell. He's tough as hell. I think the Lions could be really good. I think a lot of people think the Lions could be really good, and they're probably going to score a lot of points. And I think this guy is, even relative to others, I think he's more likely to finish in the top 5 than even some of these other top tier receivers. Josh Allen is a cheat code, right? He's been QB2, 1, 2, 1, I think the last 4 years. He can throw it, he can run it. He has huge upside weeks, and he has a pretty high floor too. So he's obviously the QB1 here. So I love, Kipper, that you just have game wreckers on this team. Like Amon-Ra, those weeks when he catches 13 passes, or when Josh runs 2 in and throws 2, like you're just going to boat race people just on the back of those 2 players. But what do I hate about this team? I've been accused at times. I always want that last drink. I'll get one more at the bar. I'll get one more whiskey before bed. I'll drink one more beer. That's Kipper when he drafts, right? Like, when you pay that much for Josh and you pay that much for Amon-Ra, you need to stop and just stop. Because you can't go back to the well and take Derrick Henry for 49, right? That's a bit of an overpay in my opinion anyway. But then you look at the rest of the team and you have Javonte Williams as your starting RB2 and Keon Coleman as your starting flex. Like if you're going to go big on Amon-Ra and you're going to spend up huge on like a quarterback or tight end position, just go to sleep for 20 minutes and come back to the draft and spread that $50 out around 2 or 3 players. Like it's like you kind of always do that last one, Kipper, and I think that puts you in like a real tight spot from just like a roster construction perspective and like having any sort of depth. So I love the way you started. I love some of your players, but you just got to stop picking that one extra guy that kind of puts you behind the 8 ball from a roster perspective. So all in all, I just the end of this roster is really tough. I'm going to go a C. All right, moving on to the Luchinator. I've been accused of being mean to Luch in the past. Luch, I like the direction, and I get it. And what I love about your team is your 3 receivers, quarterback and tight end, are outstanding, exceptional. Marvin Harrison Jr., A.J. Brown, Chris Olave. That is dangerous. And you got a really good price on Harrison Jr. Like he's going at the end of the first round in a lot of these drafts. I couldn't believe he went for 44, and I kicked myself for not jumping in. He should have been in the 50s, I think. A.J. Brown is a stud, flat stud, and he's going to win you weeks and have massive games, tons of touchdowns. Olave, I had him last year. I got really tired of watching the Saints offense, but his talent is certainly there. And if they figure something out, there's a new offensive coordinator, you can kind of sell me that it'll be a little different. And then Laporte is a beast, young tight end on a really good team. What I hate about your team is how your execution of zero running back turned out. And I think when you hear all these fantasy talking heads talk about zero running back, it doesn't really work as well in auction. Because the guys that everyone knows about that are cheap upside players get bid up, right? The Devin Singletaries, the Zamir Whites, even the Chubas, the Chase Browns, the Zach Moss. Like, typically those guys aren't going for $1. So I just feel like you put yourself in a really tough spot where you don't have a starting running back. Like, if you would have picked up like a Jerome Ford and a Devin Singletary, I would say this is A+. You crushed it. But auction is a little different beast, and zero RB is harder to execute, and I think you found that out the hard way. I think running back is going to be an absolute headache for you all season, but the rest of your team's phenomenal, so maybe it might not matter. I'm going to give you a solid B because I think your position players outside of running back are fantastic. But, if you could have just got a couple more starters there, you're going to be fishing the wire all season. That's going to be frustrating. But overall, not bad. All right, we move on to everyone's favorite feline friend, the fat cat. Zachy put together a nice draft. You know what I really like about this team, what I love about this team, I should say. I love Christian McCaffrey. The guy literally outscored the RB2 by 100 points last year. He is the gold standard, and I would argue he probably should have went for 90. If he has anything of a 24 like a 23, I think 80 ultimately is a discount. Like I paid 74 for Bijan, and McCaffrey will likely smoke him. So I think that's actually good value for an $80 player. I also really love the Murray to McBride stack. I think everyone's really getting hot and bothered about Marvin Harrison Jr., but McBride could ultimately be a huge beneficiary of that. If Harrison brings more eyeballs his way, I think McBride showed last year that he's a really dynamic playmaker at tight end. And when Kyler came back, he was really good. So I think that's going to be a really fun stack for you. And you have Christian McCaffrey. So playing Zachy in that 4 p.m. slate is going to fucking suck because he's going to have Kyler, McBride, and McCaffrey. And you're going to be up 50 points, and you know you're dead. What I hate about your team, I just think we disagree on some of these players. I think your roster construction, how you built this team, was really good. Like I think, like Kipper, take notes. He spends 80, and then he doesn't spend over 30 on any other player, right? Like that's the way to do it if you're going to go balls to the wall on one player. I'm just not a huge fan of Zay Flowers, and certainly not a big fan of Stephon Diggs.
No! God, please, no! No!
But I could very much be wrong. And the other one, David Montgomery and Keenan Allen, are kind of boring players, but you know what? They produce every single year. So I think people are writing Keenan Allen off. I think he could be Caleb Williams' best friend as a rookie. And if Jahmyr Gibbs goes down, and he's, been pretty brittle his, first year, David Montgomery is immediately like a top 6 running back in fantasy. So I really like your draft construction. I just think we disagree on some of the players. For instance, Zay Flowers and Diggs cost the same as Devonta Smith and George Pickens on my team, and I like those guys way better. But all in all, good draft, B+. I think you're in the running this year.
Excuse me.
All right, moving on to the Teflon Don. Oh, Latif, what do I love about your team? Well, I love your trio here of Saquon, Kupp, and Jonathan Taylor. I think that's really an interesting trio. I think all those guys have question marks a little bit. Taylor has had his moments. If Richardson's that much of a runner, what does that mean for Taylor? We'll see. How good will the Colts be? Saquon is one of the most, I think, polarizing players in fantasy this year, because some people think, the Eagles don't really have a running back, but the counter is the Eagles never really had a good running back, and now they do. And Kupp, we'll see. His upside is huge. He's certainly getting a little older. He's got injuries, but I think you have a trio that could be really interesting. The thing I love about your team, though, is I love the value you got on some of these guys. Speaking mostly to Amari Cooper and James Conner. I think Amari Cooper for $7 is maybe the steal of the draft. I think he, his numbers the past couple of years have been phenomenal. Like, he's not a very sexy pick on the Browns, and they do have Jerry Jeudy there, so maybe he eats into some of that, but $7 as your flex or whatever he's going to be, I think that's an absolute steal. And Connor's the same way. I mean, Connor just won't go away, and he's not sexy, but he's going to score 12 touchdowns. So I think you scooped up some really nice value late. I like your upside in guys like Jameson Williams and Brian Thomas. And I know you said like you were saving money just for them. I think you were kind of lying a little bit, but I think it worked out well for you. I think you have some good depth and some good upside. What I hate about your team is your quarterbacks. I remember a few years ago when every dickhead with a podcast told you to draft Trey Lance in the 5th and go get Trey Lance. How did that work out? Like, everyone that has a podcast is drafting Jalen Daniels late. I get it. He can run. Our league format just doesn't support these guys. Like, they will have their moments, but they are going to kill you too at times. So I know you have Stafford. That could be a sneaky one, but again, I think he's got some concerns too. I just don't like your quarterbacks. I like the rest of your team. Good value. Overall, B+. Good team.
What the dog doing?
All right, moving right along to the Clifford's Cool Cats. Pender could not be bothered to attend the draft last night. So a buddy of mine, Andrew, stepped up to the call and answered the call and stepped in for Pender last night. So big shout out to Andrew. Many people are saying he's more committed to this league than Pender is. I'm not saying that. I would never say that. Just saying other people have said that. I wouldn't say that, but I think Andrew did a pretty good job with one caveat. What I love about this team is I think your depth is really good. I look at guys down your roster: Joshua Palmer, J.K. Dobbins, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Austin Eckler, Ramondre for 15. Like, those are all kind of interesting players to me. I think Ramondre for 15 is going to be one of the biggest steals in the running back room. Like, if Luch had Ramondre on his team, he would be in the A's for his rank. Like, that's a really good pick. So that's what I love. I think you have a lot of upside, and I love that you took a defense first in honor of Pender and how he always likes to do that. What I hate, I hate how much you paid for Travis Kelce. And what I will say is my buddy Andrew is one of the biggest Bills fans I know. So if this was like a little Easter egg of like, I'm going to fuck his team up and put Kelce on here for $50, then bravo, sir. Bravo. Well done. That is an insane price for Travis Kelce. I want to know who you were bidding against for that. I think that's an insane overpay. And it does kind of hurt the composition of this team, because if you took that 47 and put it on a top or a running back or a wide receiver, I think this looks a lot different. I think that's a bit of a landmine grenade on this team. I just can't really look away. I can't get past that. So all in all, this was Andrew's first auction. He did a great job. Pender, you owe this man a case of beer, a golf lesson. Andrew, good job. I think you gave Pender a fighting chance. And let's be honest, Pender's pretty much last place every year. So we could really only go up from here. And I think we've kind of accomplished that. So all in all, I'm going to give a C+. And I think that's a pretty fair grade. All right, next on the chopping block is everyone's favorite father of 3 or 4. I've lost track at this point. Big Daddy AE. Making a name for himself quietly. I think has been back-to-back championship games, if I'm not mistaken. And it's pretty impressive stuff. AE has come into this league barnstorming. I got to say, I like this team. What do I love about it? I love that you got CeeDee Lamb for $70. I think that's a steal. I think the fact that Amon-Ra went for 76 and CeeDee went for 70 is a little crazy. Do I think CeeDee can do what he did last year? Probably not. But do I think he can do close to it? Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of these other players, I think Andy and I just kind of see the field the same way. I like the players on his team. I think Jacobs is a sneaky bet to lead the NFL in rushing. I wanted Rashee Rice. I wanted Deontay Johnson. I think Raheem Mostert could be an absolute snipe job. That's what I love about your team. You also have Christian Watson. Kamara is just a pain in the neck to play against as a PPR god. What I don't like about your team, I'm not really a big Kyle Pitts guy. I could be very, very wrong on that take. There's not a whole lot I hate about your team, Andy. I wish I could find something meaner to say. But I think Andy's got a really good team. I think he's going to be in the playoffs. And that's all I got. This is really good. I'll go A-. I think it's really good. All right, moving on. We move to everyone's favorite reverse jinxer, the releasing doves. Brett texted me this morning saying, "Oh, my team stinks." But he just wanted me to say, your team doesn't stink, and your team doesn't stink. What I hate about this team is your RB2 stinks. Like that, we know that, right? You have, I think, 8 $1 players that I'm staring at. And you're going to have to start someone there. And he's going to stink. But it's a long season. It's a long season, and it's full of terrors. Someone's going to get hurt. There's going to be someone on the waiver wire, and you just got to play the wire. It's a 14-team league. Everyone has a weakness. There's no perfect teams in this thing. Even with great keepers, you're going to have a weakness. But your strengths outweigh that weakness, big time, in my opinion. Jahmyr Gibbs at 54, I think is good value. He's a really electric player. I'm not a huge Puka guy personally, but I could be very wrong. I loved Calvin Ridley. I thought I could get him for $10. He could be, I could easily see a range of outcomes, him as a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL, which is crazy. Mark Andrews, I've had a love affair with Mark Andrews for a long time, but the guy just can't stay healthy. When he's healthy, he's electric. And Debo's another difference maker. You have a really good cast of characters here. All in all, the RB2 thing, I think it's outweighed by how good the rest of your team is. Your bench sucks, and you don't have a good RB2. That's what I hate. But I love your core roster, and I think this is a really good team. I think you make the playoffs, and I think you're going to be dangerous. I'm being nice again, but I'm going A-. I like this team. All right, next up, the hard hitters. Every commissioner has an ungovernable cohort or couple owners. I think John in the hard hitters is my white whale of ungovernable. The guy changes the draft date before even reaching out to me, just completely cucking me in my own group chat as the commissioner. Everyone already agrees to it before I even saw the email, so I can't change it. The guy he walks to the beat of his own drum, but he has a certain gravitas that people want to follow, and it angers me from time to time. What I love about his team, his starters are awesome. Ayuk, Stroud, London, Cook, DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift, a lot of really electric players. I think he could be exciting to an extent, because what I hate about this team is tell me which one of these guys can finish in the top 5 at their position group. I just don't really see that. So, like, I think John will be consistent. I think he's got consistent producers. But I don't see a ton of star power on this team unless CJ Stroud kind of ascends to being in the same tier as the Allens or the Hurts, but he just doesn't run enough to really ever get there, I don't think. So I just struggle to see the star power on this team. So that's kind of what I hate. I think he has a capped ceiling, but good consistency and good floor. And your bench is terrible because you moved the draft date and then went to dinner with your family and auto-drafted after we all changed the date for you. So, God, I hate that. But all in, not bad. B+.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
All right. Moving along to everyone's favorite troll, Ty Man's All-Stars. You know, I know there's only 3 people that are going to watch this video to the end, and it's Ty Man, Jimmy, and Jibs. So they're going last because I thought that'd be kind of funny. Ty Man, what I love about your team is your wide receivers. I think your wide receivers are awesome, and your quarterback and tight end. I think Ingram got slept on quite a bit. And what's interesting is everyone's all over Laporta and McBride and Kincaid, and like look at the numbers from last year. And like Ingram was the only one that had over 100 catches. Like some of those other stat lines weren't great. They were just good tight ends in the relative sense because the scoring at the position was like way down, and Kelsey finally took a step back. So Ingram is really sneaky, and I think for 11 is a steal. And Mahomes with like Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice stepping up, he could very much have a huge campaign again in 2024. So what I love about your team is I love your receivers, I love your quarterback, I love your tight end. Everyone was kind of memeing on Tyler, and I think he actually put a good team together. People forget Garrett Wilson is like going as like the 110. So at $32, that's a really good keeper. He probably would have went for, in this draft with all these stupid ass Jets fans, like $60. So he was patient, and I think it kind of came to him a little bit. I just hate your running backs. Like I don't agree with you on these running back picks. Like I don't see a world where Aaron Jones is a top 12 running back in a million years. Spending $28 on the Browns backfield to ultimately get a timeshare feels like an own goal for me. I don't get that one. I think more than likely you're going to be starting like Zach Moss, and maybe who knows if Rico Dowdle will do it, but I just don't really like your running backs. We don't see eye to eye there. I think they kind of stink. But the rest of your team's good, and you pulled it off, even though everyone was giving you shit. So well done. I'll go B+, and I think Ty Man is going to be a contender again. All right, number 13 out of 14, our newest league mate, House Tyrone, coming in hot with the extended intro because that song slaps. Jimmy, my man, I like it. I think I like it. You know what I love about this team is your roster construction. This guy gets it. He understands. Auctions are hard. It's really easy to like just get pulled in 50 different directions and ending up with some weird lopsided team where you don't have any running backs like Luch or you don't have a bench like Kipper. I think you did a good job. You have depth. You have good players up and down the board. Like, is this a league winner? I don't know. I don't know that. I think that'd be my hate comment. I think you lack a little punch. I think Achane is a sexy pick, but I think he carries a lot of risk. I don't think Mostert's going anywhere. I think there's going to be weeks where you love Achane, others where you're going to be really frustrated with him. Guys like Mixon and Evans are getting a little up there, and I question how explosive they can be or how much they can deliver big weeks. I fucking hate Joe Burrow. He killed me last year. I hope he slips in the shower or something. And I like the DK. I like the DK pick, but again, like it lacks a little punch. I think it lacks a little upside. Your bench doesn't do a ton for me. I like Jaden Reed. I think that's your best keeper candidate would be Jaden Reed. But all in, well done, out of the gates, build a solid contender. I'm going to give you a solid B-. I think you did a good job. I think it lacks a little bit of punch and topside energy, But well done. Welcome to the league, JT. You heard that right, folks. If you made it to the end, you found my favorite team in the NBMFL this year. This only beats mine. I love my team. I think my team is fantastic. I think Jibs is better for a couple reasons. Jibs had the best keeper in the league this year in Brees Hall. Brees Hall would have went for 75 without breaking a sweat, because I know the Nigros and Carlucci would have been all over him like flies on shit. So a really nice discount, but he followed up with fireworks. I think Terry McLaurin for $11 is a crazy steal. Like, I don't think I have a hate on this team. Like, even guys like Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Leggett, Justin Herbert for $1. Even fucking Taysom Hill, like, could be kill someone at tight end one of these weeks. But your combo of Jamar Chase and Brees Hall are two top 7 picks. And then you did an awesome job of building a really good roster. Like, I think Kenneth Walker for 20 is a steal. New offensive coordinator, new offensive identity. Zach Charbonnet's a backup. Like, Walker I could see him being a top 10 running back. Kittle solid as hell. Singletary a starter. And Khalil Shakir, if Josh Allen's going to throw for 4,200 yards, someone's going to catch these passes. And I think Shakir is the most likely outside of Kincaid to do it. So I love this team. I think this team is phenomenal. Even Jared Goff. Like, Jared Goff for $10, great deal. High completion percentage, 14 out of 17 games in a dome. Ton of completions. This team's really good. This is the team to beat, guys. I don't have a hate comment. This is A+. This is awesome. Good luck, Jibs, because you're probably going to get everyone injured in week 1 and then be really pissed at me. But if you made it this far, thanks for watching. Good luck to all the teams this year. I'm going to try to do more YouTube videos as the season goes on, as time permits. I know everyone looks forward to my auction recap, so I hope you enjoy it just as much in video form. This was a lot of fun. It's my first time ever editing a video. So give me some feedback. Let me know what you think. And that's it. That's all I got. I'm out, boys. Take care.